Hello, Yizhao Martins, licensed marriage and family therapist, couples therapist. Let's face it, relationships are difficult. When there's ADHD involved, it's extremely hard. According to research, ADHD impacted marriages has higher divorce rate, maybe twice, as the non-ADHD impacted ones. So what happens when your relationship or marriage ends and you have a child or children involved? You still have to co-parent together. So you can probably imagine being a partner with an ADHD partner, what it's going to be like when you just separate, when the emotions are very high. And ADHD co-parent may have emotional dysregulation challenges, and the rejection sensitivity dysphoria may get triggered during this time. So if they have already internalized that I am the problem, my ADHD caused me not be able to meet your standards and your needs, and the needs of the family, that I'm responsible for the failure of my marriage. And this post-separation will be the most difficult time for them to stay, say, grounded and centered as for what needs to be done. They could go between days that are very collaborative in co-parenting, other days you feel like they're a tyrant because they have such emotional reactivity to whatever you say or done, or even the presence of you. Remind them of their failure. It's very hard for everyone involved. And there could be also other challenges for you to co-parent with an ADHD parent. Because of their impulsivity and their hard time to stay on track with details, they may drop off the kids late at school, they may pick up the kids late from school, and they may miss some paperwork required by the school, or they have a hard time assessing the children for their homework. And if your kids have some services or parent-child teacher conference, they may have a hard time collaborating because of the lack of executive functioning skills. And this lack of consistency can show up in your schedule as well, either because they are refusing or they're really having a hard time to accept this new schedule when you live in a different household, or they just tend to be spontaneous with things. They may decide, well, I want to take the kids to this park or this activity after school, and they return to your household late. So you maybe get thrown into this crazy, messy co-parenting schedule that you don't even know when you can do what, when can you work or see friends and have the children anymore. It's extremely disruptive. Also for the children, they may get anxious and feel this sense of lack of control, that they don't know where and when they're going to be with who. So what to do? Unfortunately, the first tip I give you is to wait and see, to really let time to heal and let things to settle in a little bit. But it's not that you can't do anything during that time. Having firm boundary is always a good strategy. For example, if you need to talk about something about your children, try to set aside a time. If it's emotional, where you can perceive it's going to be emotional, set aside a time where both people are prepared, instead of just throwing some ideas when you're doing transition pickup and drop off children. Everybody's rushed and children are kind of being anxious and acting out. You talk about something really important and emotional, and then you have a blowout. So set aside a time. Say if you want to talk about little Johnny's insurance, health insurance, give it a 30 minutes to half an hour to an hour to talk either over phone or in person, where the space is neutral for the two of you. And also allow yourself to say no and stop. When the emotions are getting high and something past stuff get triggered and you start talk about between the two of you, remember last time we had this issue, it's not about the children anymore. Say stop. Let's take a reset. Let's take a time out. come back to it when we are coming down. And so we can really rationally and effectively talk about the coordination of the children's care. Don't take it personally. Take it as you are partners of the business, that you're trying to collaborate, and your best interest, your common interests are the children. So what if you can't do that? Some people say, we're really having a hard time. My partner with ADHD or my ex-partner with ADHD are so emotionally up and down, that's so cranky, and sometimes they withdraw, other times they are just anger outbursts all the time. I'm scared. I don't feel safe, and I don't think I can have that conversation with them. I'd rather parent alone. That's very sad, and it's not good for your children. So maybe it's time to seek a professional co-parenting counselor for help at this point, so they can set aside time, a safe environment for the two of you to discuss issues that you prepare for before the meeting. And a neutral third party can also help you to stick to your common goal, which is the best interest of your children. One thing I often say to the co-parents I work with is anything that suggests, they advise, and they propose, I will say, think about this. Why is that good for your child or children? Why is that good for your child to be separated from one parent for longer than 10 days, for example? And why is that good for your child to skip this activity? And why is that good for the child to not have a consistent pickup time? So it's not about the parents, it's not about your old dynamic that you try to control me, you try to parent me, and you're not listening, you're resisting. It's about the child now, it's about the children now. How can you stretch yourself, take risk to be a better parent when you don't live in the same household? How can you minimize the separation and change's impact on your children? So when you can get some help, or either getting help, or the two of you can sit down calmly and talk about what's need to be done to take care of the child or children together in separate households, I will invite you to divvy up the work, really based on each of your strengths. You can refer to an old video that I did, is how to achieve 1 + 1 equals more than 2 with your partner with ADHD. So that's for when you are living together. It also has some value and some suggestion for you when you don't live in the same household. Basically, you want to optimize your resources together, even when you live in separate household, so your children can benefit. Please let go of the fantasy that your co-parent with ADHD will suddenly step up and live up to your standard, be on time all the time, be meticulous about details, and great at following things through. It may never happen. It didn't happen in your marriage. Why do you think it will happen when the marriage ends? If your partner with ADHD, go take this opportunity to do some deep work and getting a coach to help them to manage their ADHD symptoms. It may happen someday, but probably not right after you separate, especially when they feel rejected and they feel like a failure when their marriage ends. So try to have open conversations about who can really do what to benefit the children the most. Say, if you take on the role of contacting the school and finish the paperwork, which is boring and repetitive for partners with ADHD, and they may really just procrastinate, they never get it done. So if you take on that and let your partner or the co-parent with ADHD come up with their strengths. Generally, they're very playful, they're fun, and they can really benefit the children or even the children at school by volunteering at school, being the chaperone when there's a field trip, and read books and engage in those activities. Doesn't take a lot of planning, but can be present with some spontaneous playfulness. So either way, the biggest thing I will remind you is in this process to let go of control. I know it's very difficult. So think about the time when you're learning how to bike, for example. Right before you fall, you feel this losing control sensation in your body. You're like off balance. If you grip onto your bike, you may just fall because you are tense. But if you relax in your body and breathe into it and go with the flow, your body naturally knows how to rebalance itself and find its equilibrium again. So I hope you can find your balance in this process and really take in the calmness and peace when you regain what's going on in the flow of the relationship, the co-parenting relationship with a parent with ADHD and with your children. Till next time.